We are
Yeah.
live.
Hey, sis.
Hey. Okay, so let me just forewarn and get we gotta get the little bugs out. We've been backstage trying to navigate some audio challenges. And we're just gonna plug and push full steam ahead. And if we're having any issues, please drop comments and let us know so we can adjust. So Faida, welcome to Tipsy Tuesday. Thank you for getting into it. Thank you
I
for
get
getting
into it.
into it.
I'm so happy to
So
be here.
you're happy to be here. I'm happy to have you. I always like to start out by saying a few things because people hear the name Tipsy Tuesday and they start to think that it's about being tipsy on a Tuesday. And I have to always say it's not that kind of tips, right? Today is about tips to help us design a life that we all envision, that we all aspire, that we all want to achieve. And I call it a life that we love. And making sure that we are unapologetic about it, making sure that we put aside fear and doubt, and that we lean in with clarity and courage. And so, as I think about today's conversation of no ordinary love and being at a decision point, I cannot think of a better guest to be here because you are certainly helping me on my journey of being a well rounded executive. So, again, thank you so much and welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Fantastic. Where are you at? That's gorgeous in the background.
This is my office space. This is where the magic happens. And I just love to be here because this topic or this theme of no ordinary love is epic because having love and work and profession in the same sentence, you don't see that very often. So we're breaking ground here. So I'm just happy to explore this, peel back the layers, and interrogate how to incorporate love in the context of work and decision making. So thank you.
Fantastic. So before we do that, I know who you are. And I have an interesting story for how I've come to know you over the years, starting with your husband. I
Yes.
always tell people you never know who you're going to meet and how those relationships are going to kind of cross paths. And, I'm putting him to the side now because I'm in love with you.
I love you too.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
He's cool.
We'll get there later. But tell us a bit about who you are. And one of the things that I find so fascinating beyond just what you bring to the table is that you have made a decision to kind of put aside, and I don't want to say put aside, but you made a decision to transition from what many of us would consider security, C-suite status with a global organization to bet on yourself. And so, as you share a bit about who you are as a woman, a mom, an entrepreneur, all those things, I think that's a really cool piece to also understand about, the story of Faida.
Sure. And, I love that question. Who are you? Because I could answer it as many do. I am founder and I'm an entrepreneur of Beaded Souls. I am a wife and mother. I am a sister, a loyal friend. But those are the roles and responsibilities. But that's not who I am. Who I am is a divine expression who is inhabiting this human experience in this moment. That's who I am. I am a living expression of love with every person that I encounter. That's who I am because that's unchangeable. The roles may change. The people, the situations, all of those things are temporary and they change, but who I am is infinite. And so, even with your question of like, you were in a C suite role and had accomplished success, it still was a role. It was a role I was playing. And I had to get clear about whether it was in alignment with who I really am. So that's like a little bit existential around who I am and what you mean by being in one role versus another. But I had to come to that realization. And that really helped me navigate making decisions that seem to defy what society would suggest is the types of decisions we make as professionals, as a woman, as a Black woman. Like there is a lot of expectations, but once we get to a place where we can be hyper clear about who we really are, decisions can become clearer and easier. Not comfortable, clearer and easier. So now I have a wellness and coaching practice. This is my space. This is what I said, where I said the magic happens. And I support people on their journey to wholeness, to healing, to authenticity, and enabling them to be true to who they are and therefore make what could be considered difficult decisions with ease, with stability, honoring who they really are. Just like I had to make in transitioning from 10 years of C-suite experiences to now something that a lot of people would say that's kind of crazy. That's a little alternative. And it's a transition of who people know me as professionally into something that is quite contrary to what, if you didn't know me personally, but professionally, it's kind of contrary to a COO. And yet here I am.
I love that. You hit a word that I did a Tipsy Tuesday, I think like a couple weeks back around clarity. And one of the things that I was saying is that, clarity will not necessarily make your goals easy, but it will make them attainable. And I think we underestimate the importance of being clear. And I'm going to say being courageous. And, last night I was having a conversation with my other half about, what do you think it takes to design a life that you love, right? That is really about having no ordinary love. We get one, we may have multiple lives, but we know we have one. And every day I wake up, I'm like, this is another day that I need to fully lean in because the time is going to go so fast.
Yeah.
And in order for me to lean in, that means I have to decide to do things that may be, to your point, uncomfortable. But what I'm clear on is I don't want to have any regrets. And so he was giving his thoughts around what he thought it took. And I said, yeah, that's fair. And I wasn't challenging it. But for me, I always think it comes down to clarity and courage because we get caught up, and you touched on this, on these expectations, on what the norms are that society says are expected of us, or what we should be doing, or how we should be doing. And we wake up and we have lived a life based on other people's expectations, or we have lived a life where we just haven't had any clarity or consciousness about what we really want, right? It's like you just go through the motions. So I don't want to go through the motions anymore. I went through the motions for many, many years
Me
doing
too.
what I had to do. And it's paid off. I'm not going to, I have a wonderful career. I have an amazing daughter. I've got a great social network, but I still was just kind of going through. And so
Mm.
one of the things I really value and love in working with you, I haven't told you, this woman is part of my, and we'll get into what that looks like and what that means, is that it continues to just bring me back to center. It
Yeah.
continues to help me get the debris out of my head so that I
Mm-hmm.
can remember what it is that I'm trying to accomplish and achieve. And I say, if there's anything that I want folks who follow along with me on Tipsy Tuesday or who tune in today, is that we all have the ability, we really do, to make decisions to debunk what other people expect or want of us and to push back on it and live the way we want to live. And even if you try something, like, you've stepped out on your own and you said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, I'm not going to be a COO at the moment. I'm not going to be in operations and HR and da da da. It works, it works. If it doesn't, we make changes and go on and do something else, right? And so,
Absolutely.
what was that? I want to say, like, tipping point, or what was that decision point for you to say, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and bet on me?
It was a road. It wasn't a moment. It was many moments that built on top of each other. And you know what? I want you to indulge me. Okay. Because you knew when you were bringing me on that this wasn't going to be just like your typical. You knew that. So I want you to indulge me because I think the biggest The biggest factor was that I developed this relationship with myself rooted in self love. Rooted in self love. So I am going to do a really brief love invocation for all of us. Okay. So if you are in the sound of my voice, I want you to just invite love in and just feel the sensation of love. Perhaps think of the person you love more than anyone in this whole world and feel what it feels like to love that person. Feel it in your heart. And each as you breathe, let that feeling tone of love expand to every crevice and corner of your body, every cell. And just as you breathe, let it expand all the way to the boundaries of your body. And now beyond. Filling the room you're in, the space you're in with that loving tone. Each breath allowing you to feel the sensation of love more fully. And now imagine that love fills every relationship, every situation, every encounter, every decision that you have to make is surrounded and engulfed in love. Now, that is part of how you come to a space where you can feel comfortable with a decision. Because decisions are made either in love or in fear, there is no in between. So I was wrestling with the fact that I was staying in a role or in a circumstance that really was rooted in fear of losing the title and the prestige. It was my ego at play. Would I make money? Would I have the same lifestyle? Fear of the change of my lifestyle. But then I had to make this decision. Am I rooted in love or fear? And I said, I can't. I have to be rooted in love in every decision, including what I do for the majority of my day. I'm spending the majority of my day in something that I know is misaligned. And so I step by step said, okay, in a daily, whatever, a meeting, I'm coming in, and we know these meetings, wherever you are, whatever your job, whatever your industry, you can go to a meeting and there's some people in a meeting that you don't want to see and you don't want to talk to because they trigger something in you. But I said, Faida, engulf them in love. It changed my whole perspective. It changed my vibration. So I said, well, wow, if I can do this with a meeting, what would this look like in just how my day plays out, moment by moment? And I chose love. And not just love for me, but love in full expression and service to other people so that I could share this wisdom, share this concept of being in love with myself and therefore an expression of love as the person you are through your work. It can happen.
I love that. You know what, man? Here we go. Because first of all, you and I we can get going, but I'm gonna try to keep it because we got a time frame here.
Okay.
But I I never thought about. I thought about scarcity, mindset, but I do not disagree about that fear piece. Like when I really pull back the onion and I think about the reason why I did so many things that I did, it was out of fear, right? Like fear of failure.
Yep.
If anyone really knows me, I have a fear of being poor or without or in financial. I'm serious. Like
You must do.
right? I have a fear. I've had a commitment fear for many years. Because I don't want to choose the wrong spouse. I don't want to choose the wrong job. I don't want to choose the wrong, all these fears. And I did a lot of work over the
Mhm.
last several years to release those fears. And the other day we had a session and you were talking about how I need to cut the cord.
Mhm.
And I said to you, I said, I know exactly what that is. Right?
Yeah.
There's people cord cutting, but there are still things that I'm pushing through and working through to get beyond fear and fully be in love and ease and flow. And I think if many of us thought about why we make decisions, I think we would see at the core of it, there's a fear of disappointing people, a fear of whatever. So I love that point so much, and it makes me want to ask you, because I know you also coach and work with leaders and professionals. What are some of those common themes or common concerns that are holding people back as they're making decisions? And I say there's kind of like three verticals or three buckets, and this could be in your relationships, this could be in your personal life, this could be wherever. It's like, do I
Mhm.
stay in the situation I'm in? Do I leave a situation that I'm in? Or is it time for me to maybe reinvent and kind of carve and create something else? And so, thinking about love and fear and decisions and designing lives that we love, what are some of those things that you see people tensing up or holding back around?
Sure. It's unique and different because a lot of what we as humans arrive with and bring forth in our professional life has to do with limiting beliefs, stories we've adopted that were well before whatever professional circumstance we're in. Okay. And it doesn't help that our society flourishes in fear. We're bombarded with fear when we turn the television on, when we look at our social media, like all the messages, not all, the majority of the messages that we receive are rooted in fear. Uh-oh, Black people. Uh-oh, immigrants. Uh-oh, Democrats, Republicans. Like we are rooted in this fear versus understanding the agency and power we have to be rooted in something different, something like love, something like trust. So a lot of times when people show up, they've adopted all these doggone stories. And it makes it really difficult to make this transition. But that's the beauty of coaching. That's why I love what I do, because I get to see people literally transform. So a lot of what that looks like is um, I have a difficult person. Either it is my supervisor or superior, or someone that I have a direct report, and I don't know how to handle dealing with this. It is this human element, and they don't know how to deal. And so instead of confronting what they're having to deal with, they either resort to fear based responses, sheer avoidance, or they get sickly, right? Okay. And we know, if you don't know, our body tells us everything. Our body is wise. And that's why I said earlier it was not by accident falling in love with our physical body, because our bodies are telling us what we need to know. So people are sick, or people are reacting out of anger and fear, or they're full on avoiding. So then we have to confront what is the root of that. A lot of times it's something that they came with from family, society, you name it, messaging. And then it's the question, well, is it true? Is it true?
Is it true? Yeah.
Is it true? Or is it a story? And then you continue to say, well, yeah, well, it's okay, so it's not true. So then why are you believing that? Then we have to reframe and create new, positive, enforcing, empowering beliefs. But people show up because they're carrying stories and limiting beliefs that plain and simply are not true. and don't even know it.
No disagreement there. And a lot of those stories, I mean, yes, society does definitely kind of craft and project them, but we'd be surprised at how many stories we create ourselves. And I love this, right? That we create ourselves. And one of our, hi, Katrina, she said, getting beyond fear is a journey. Yes, ma'am, it is. Okay. Yes, it is. And she wants to know, is there a way to streamline this fear journey? And I'm going to, two things I'm going to say real fast for myself as I have gotten past fear, if I think about it in that way. One, I say it has certainly come with age.
Yes.
It has certainly come with age. Like, the older I get, the more I realize that certain things just don't matter. They don't.
I know.
And, for myself as well, I've always been a little bit of a outlier. Probably, I've always been pretty a nonconformist, non-traditional, but I still tried to do what I had to do, and I still do. But it's interesting as I think about this journey for me as a professional, a core element that was missing that literally anchors and grounds everything. When people hear me talk about this, they kind of like roll their eyes, like, yeah, whatever. Like, seriously, it is the infusion of my mental well being, my health, and my like, into every single decision that I make, roles. I have had jobs where I've had to be carried out and have surgery afterwards because that's how sick I was. When you start you talking about, I was writing that down like, whoo, I remember a time. And so, I don't even want to put myself in situations, be it professionally, romantically, family, social circles, that trigger that level of like angst and discomfort and fear and scarcity. Take me back to where I was. And so, as I think about that journey, you know, I don't see putting myself first as being selfish. And that has been the number one way that I have been able to debunk and get past the fear of things that I was trying. And also just, accepting that, Eris, you have been a very responsible and strategic person all your life. This fear of, oh my goodness, if I stop with something, all of a sudden I'm going to lose something. One, God is going to provide, the universe is going to provide, and you're going to figure out a way to provide. And so that's just kind of like my 2 cents for what I've been doing on my fear journey. But I would love to hear from you.
And I love to hear your experience and your reflection on that, because all I have seen of you has been so fearless. Every room, every situation, you show up so authentically, but we all carry certain fears. And to the question posed, this is not an easy fix. I know you want the fast track. I hear you. I see you. But this takes time, effort, consistency, intention, because it is an undoing of years and years of programming. So, what I would say though, as an approach, the first step is to develop an actual relationship with your body. When I say that, I mean feel, because we have a lot of ways in this country to not feel. We numb with over the counter drugs, prescription drugs, alcohol, all the things. So we have a propensity to numb out. But I would invite all of you who hear me right now to develop an actual relationship with your physical body, because it's giving you signals. We know, as a simple example, you meet somebody new and you get a vibe. The vibe can be either A, this is we're on the same frequency. I'm feeling this. I felt that with Eris the moment I met her. I got this. Okay, it was a vibe. Others, you might say, oof, I didn't like how I felt with that person. Your body is already telling you. Translate that to work situations. You can be at work and there be either an encounter, a project, or something, and it doesn't feel right in your body, don't ignore it. Listen. So that's step one, developing a relationship with your body, because fear often shows up with this. Like there's literal places in the body that have direct connection to fear, and it's this kind of thing. You see people when they look like that, you're kind of like, what are they afraid of? So if you begin to feel tightness here, there's some fear building, and then you can inquire, because once you're building the relationship with your body, you then can have the awareness to interrogate what you're feeling. When you interrogate what you're feeling, you begin to get at the root and the core of this fear. Finally, you've got to deal with the fear. Just identifying it, becoming aware of it isn't the end. You got to deal. You got to feel the feelings. You got to process those feelings. And guess what? You have to digest so that then you can release those feelings. That's a lot of what energy work is about. And, I don't know if we're going to get deep into that today, but energy work helps you to process these energies that are stagnant and stuck in the body so that they can be released. But as your question is asking about what to do, your body's telling you connect to your body, feel the feelings so that then you can begin to process and digest and eliminate those feelings.
Yeah. I also really value as it relates to this releasing of fear and designing a life that you love is having a team that can help you do that. And when I say a team, for me, I have you, I've had a coach, I have, uh, like who is it that
Sports.
helps
Mm-hmm.
you beyond just the day to day in terms of your job, your team there, but it's almost like your kitchen cabinet, your life cabinet, and being able to bring all of these different resources because it's not only a journey and a process. It has to be a collective effort. Like it can't be done in a silo because that's where we stay in our heads. I'm an overthinker, and if I don't have some folks to help get me out of my head, Eris is going to spiral and it's going to spin and spin and spin and stay in the same space. So
Yes.
I can appreciate that. One of the
Thank
things,
you. Thank you for bringing that to this conversation, because it doesn't happen alone. There are supports, people like me. It can look as bespoke as it needs to for you, but there are professionals out here who can support you. Maybe it's therapy for you. Maybe it is a coach for you. Maybe it is yoga. Maybe it is Reiki work. There are a number of ways that you can get support in this processing, transmuting, all of these elements of the work, the internal work, who can guide you and support you, because you do need somebody to be like, it's okay, because it is. And I want to make this one point. I know you got something else to say, but I want to make this one point. Even if you are dealing with fear, I'm here to tell you, if nobody else does, you are all right. Everything you're experiencing is the right thing for you to be experiencing. You know why? Because we are here on this earth in this moment to learn and evolve. And I don't know about you, but the way I learn is through mistakes, through falling. You got to learn how to get back up. That's when you remember and actually learn something. So if you're in some situation and you're feeling fear, you're supposed to, because guess what? This is part of your evolution. These challenges are there for you to grow and evolve. So don't feel the despair. You're just where you need to be. And it is just right.
that's right. I wouldn't have had it any other way. I mean, I couldn't be or do what I do if I had not gone through those experiences of failure, setbacks, etc. One thing I'll say is that I look at being able to fail as a privilege almost,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you hear about these boys out here, these who they say fail. What does Elon Musk say? Fail fast, fail often, fail early, something like that. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's great for you. You got billions of dollars. You can
You got
recover from
safety
your
net.
failure, right? And for many of us, and I think this goes back to that fear again, that we can't fail because a failure might be detrimental to not just us, but to a generation behind us. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one is, I don't know, is working through that, releasing some of that overbearing kind of responsibility that we carry. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be thinking about those coming behind us, but I'm coming back to, like, we've got to focus on ourselves first, and putting these safety nets that may not have traditionally been allowed for us, or been given to us, like putting those in place. And so I love what Michelle said here. She said she calls it her safety circle. I
Mm-hmm.
consider you part of my safety circle. I'm a safety circle, because if I didn't, I know what it was like when I didn't have one.
Yeah.
And I see where I was at in life when I didn't have one. And being very intentional now about making sure that I have one. I'm not going to, it has been a multiplier
Mm.
for my career, for my confidence, for just the things that I'm tackling and moving forward with in life. And so I was going to say, one of the questions I actually had, and you touched on it earlier, you talked about avoiding. And, this is a big buzzword these days in relationships, like avoidance. I'm an avoidant.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure. Actually, I
Mm-hmm.
have been an avoidant. And I think a lot of us can relate to being an avoidant, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we just don't want to rock the boat. Particularly if you think about Black women, sometimes we get um, deemed as being like aggressive or overly, it's like all the
Mm-hmm.
things, right? But we also say that this is a journey in life. And
Mm-hmm.
so my question is, what does it look like, or how do you start to delineate between being patient and going through a process, and being avoidant, right? It might be with regards to a promotion. It could be with regards to starting your own business. That relationship that maybe you might need to let go of. I don't know, but what do you think about patience
Mm-hmm.
versus avoidance?
And you touched on it even in the question. Patience has intent. So when you're patient, it is because you are gathering more information, or you are being strategic about the right timing, or you are building your own confidence in order to approach a thing. So patience has intent, and it has a end date, a finality where action will actually take place. Whereas avoidance is infinitely stalled, stuck. There's no evolution involved. There's nothing you're learning involved. And going back to what I said before, we're here to learn. We're here to confront some stuff that is uncomfortable because we're going to learn from it. Just imagine you do it, you go about something, it goes well. Great. You can say, here are the things I did to do this thing, and it went great. Or you do get to come to a point and it didn't go so well. You can reflect and say, that's where I went wrong. Iterate, try again. But when you're in avoidance, there's nothing. There's no evolution. There's nothing to learn. And probably you're sitting there getting sick, telling y'all your body is telling you everything because you're not actually expressing or addressing a thing that is bothering you. It's there. And it never gets processed or flows or gets moved if you don't. One thing before you go to another question, because I know you're always thinking, Eris, the friends and the group and the circles. I think this is beautiful that we talked about this, because I also want to bring to the surface that those friends, those circles will change as you evolve and as you grow and as you make decisions that are rooted in love and not fear. The people who are on those old vibrations, those lower vibrations, are going to just start to either self select out, or you're going to start having confront, and you're going to be like, what's going on? I'm just choosing love. I'm choosing me. And what they say, you got to do your own mask before you mask another, I can't remember saying,
Right.
but like, they're so used to you like masking them, but no, I'm choosing this in love, but I still got you once I do me. but people will not be able to come with you. Not all will be able to come with you on that. And so that's just another element personally, professionally. It happens in all of our facets of life as we evolve and begin to be rooted in love in our decision making. Our circles change, and they should, because our
I
vibration
agree.
frequency is changing. Yes.
Yeah, they absolutely should. For those who are tuning in now, I would challenge you to think about things that you know you want to do or pursue or need to address. Are you being patient or are you avoiding? And that was for me, honestly, a whole mic drop moment when you like, patience has intent. Mm. One of the, I am always, like to your point, I'm always thinking. I'm always planning. And I understand that plans will not necessarily always go as planned, but it's because I like to have, and I hate using that word sometimes because we overly use it, but I really love to have intentionality. Like I need things to be finite so that I can knock it out, move on to the next thing, or I know what I'm working towards. Because when it's like open ended and it requires a lot of just like, I don't know, it does not sit well with me at all. It makes me extremely tense. It makes me stressed out. So I try not to operate like that. But I do have things in life that I've been avoiding
Mm-hmm. We
that
all
if
do.
I didn't avoid it could further help me with having this life that I love that is no ordinary love. And so I am going to sit back, and one of my little exercises, and again, this wouldn't be tipsy Tuesday without having a challenge and some tips,
Mm-hmm.
is for us to do an exercise of being real honest with ourselves about what are we being patient with and what are we avoiding, and then what are we going to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about right now in this current job market, it's
Yeah.
it's a I don't that's a whole other thing, and it breaks my heart. I think for Black women right now, we're about 7% of the unemployment, or hitting the unemployment mark for the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
I talk all the time. I'm almost like, okay, Eris, we've heard this and we've heard it, but I'm gonna keep talking about it. I have so many friends now and peers and colleagues who have just been what I consider like chronically unemployed, 6 months, 7 months, over
Mm-hmm.
a year, who
Mm-hmm.
have 10, 15, 20 years experience, all the things, right, has done all the things right. And some of them I feel are even getting to the point where there's a level of just, I don't want to say giving up, but that light is hard when you've been a professional and you've been successful and you've done all the right things, but you're not getting the kind of response from the industry that you would like to see. And so, that also makes me think about this like patience versus avoidance. And so when you're in a role, how patient should you be with getting that promotion or that increase? Right now, I'm like, look, if you just got a job, let's be happy. I hate to say it like that, unless it's taking out your soul, right? But also, are you avoiding making some hard choices and decisions that can help further your career or your financial well-being? Or even those who are looking, don't give up, right? Some, I'm like, have you applied for a job today? No, like they just don't even want to, like they're just avoiding it. And so I really, that really resonated a lot with me with regards to patience having intent, and there being like a finite end with it. So
Right. There is an end to that. And I would say it is really hard. No one is, even being intentional in your patience can be hard, especially when we're talking about this, the context that you're talking about right now. But one of the things I would offer up as we talk about being, providing tips is getting really clear about your purpose. And people say that, like, what is your driving force, or what is, but really clear about your purpose, because I believe, and many believe that the universe puts you in a circumstance for a reason. So, what if you use that time and this spaciousness to get clear about your purpose? If you know your purpose, then that's your anchor. There's no wavering, there's nothing that can change that because that's core to who you are. Then you get intentional, rooted in that purpose. So then your actions are in alignment with who you really are and what you're really here to do. The universe begins to respond. Now, will it look like what you have framed in your head? Probably not. But it will feel right because it's actually core to the person you really are. And it's intentional. Your actions are intentional as that stake in the ground has been made for you. So take that time. If any of you are, I was going to say victims, but subject to being unemployed, underemployed right now, what if you use this time to bring clarity, bringing that back from earlier in the conversation, to bring that clarity around what your purpose really is, your intentions are, and your values, get values aligned. And that might open up a whole nother spectrum of opportunities for you that you had not considered because you were stuck in what you used to do, what made you a whole bunch of money, what you think you're good at, but maybe it's misaligned anyway.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So first of all, I'm always like, Lord, she always in my head. I can't
Yeah,
take with you because I feel like you would know immediately if I'm lying or if I'm like, oh, like, girl, I see you. So
we
when
got
you say
we got to play spades. Be like, nah, boo.
crazy, I had literally just wrote down the word clarity just before you said it as you were talking about purpose. And again, here I go. It's like I know sometimes we hear these conversations and people are like, if I hear one more person talking about purpose and intentionality and doing the work, I cannot stress enough how legitimate and how much of a requirement these types of things are if you are literally seeking to design a life that's in, here we go, another word, alignment with what you want. You can't get to the you can't skip the work. That's all I'm, you just cannot skip the
Mm-mm.
work. And that means, instead of going out to a happy hour, be happy in the house for a moment and dig deep for a couple hours and really think about what it is that you need to bring into your life, what it is that you need to cut out of your life to achieve the life that you say you want in your head. And so when people tell me they want something in that regard, I'm like, so what are you doing to get there? Because I know you're saying, oh, I see what you do, or I see, and I want to. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm gonna tell you what I did, and then when I tell you, you're looking at me like, oh, okay. And then when I circle back, did you do your work? They're like, nah, I didn't get around to it. Okay, well, you're not serious, or
Yeah.
you're gonna look up, and it's gonna be 5 years, it's gonna be 10 years, it's gonna be 15 years, and right. And so you have to put in the work to do the work. And when we talk about purpose, I something that has recently kind of clicked for me is that your purpose, like everything we're talking about, can evolve and change. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your purpose today may not be the purpose that you have, 5 months from now, 5 weeks from, like things change and evolve. And so for me in the beginning of my career and my livelihood and just even how I lived my life, a big part of my purpose as a single young mother, I just wanted to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do to raise my daughter, provide for my daughter, make sure she didn't have any wants, like just that was I needed to get us to a place. And we got there. My purpose now is so different. I mean, she's still fundamental, but and also just to be really, I thought purpose was like being purpose driven. I worked in the public sector. I did a lot of civic engagement. I was hands on in the community. But I realized that I can support and do those things without necessarily being the one doing those things. So, your
Mm-hmm.
purpose can evolve, but also I hadn't done the work to really identify what I thought my purpose was. It just kind of was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So therefore I'm doing it.
I do. And that's one of the first things I do with my coaching clients. And it's actually the most rewarding piece I do with my coaching clients. We have our purpose experience. We go through this whole exercise. Next thing you know, they leave it with a purpose statement. And sometimes It has absolutely nothing to do with their job. I'm going to tell you, this is the purpose statement that evolved for me. I am the mother goddess energy who uses ancient wisdom and curiosity to guide myself and others to healing and liberation. That could be a host of things. It is for this season, the coaching, meditation, Reiki, all of these type of practices. But to your point, 5 years from now, it could be a very different manifestation. But I know my purpose is rooted in something that is not told to me, some external societal thing. And it's not even just doing well in the world. That's nice. But what hits home in your heart? And you got to sit there and go through some exercises to land there, because you might think you know, but really, do you know? And then once you know your purpose, what's the intent around it? What are the actions you're actually taking in your day to day life to meet your goal rooted in that purpose that's clear? So it is work. This is not reactive. This
Yeah.
is intentional and proactive.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
love this from Marilyn. She said, purpose does evolve. But then she said, when moving from surviving to thriving, right? And I think about, again, I just go back to where I was early in my life and for so many years and just kind of past things. I was a survivor. And I
Yeah.
think for a long time, we've been taught or thought that being a survivor was like a good thing, right? It's like the strong black woman. I don't want that. I don't want to be a survivor. I don't want to be a strong black woman. I want to thrive and I want to be allowed to be soft and I want to be
Mhm.
allowed to be supported. And that is okay. And now that I no longer feel that I'm in that survival mode, it really, again, like, whew, life just started changing in so many different ways. And so you talked about exercises and you talked about Reiki and sound bath, which are all things that I am super passionate about. I cannot even imagine my life without any of those things. Exercise in a different way, but yes, exercise in that way. But what are then some
Okay.
practices, because it's Tipsy Tuesday,
Yes.
um, what are some exercises that you recommend, or what are some practices or services that can help with this journey?
Okay. Thank you for that. Going from surviving to thriving, because that's what we are to embody. Thriving. Okay. And shining. I see that too. And we have permission to do it, women, Black women, and our allies and friends. Actually, we have full permission to do that. So, how do we start this? Okay. We start with, perhaps no surprise as you're beginning to know me, meditation, mindfulness. You have got to quiet the noise. Now, I'm not saying you have to sit and meditate for 30 minutes, because everybody's form of meditation can be different. It can be committing to walking in nature, perhaps not right now in the snow, but in general, committing to walking in nature on a daily basis. It can mean breathing deeply when you wake up in the morning, sitting up and just breathing and feeling into your body. Something that is going to quiet your mind and allow you the spaciousness to come into full awareness of when you are making decisions, when you are responding versus when you are responding instead of reacting. But that means you have to build the muscle of creating spaciousness for yourself. That means believing you can have ease, putting time and effort into bringing ease. And you said exercise, and I'm going to say it, move your body every day. Our bodies are our temples and they are meant to move. They were created to move. If you are stuck and stagnant, then the flow of energy is not happening. You need to move every day, even if it's stretching every day, something. Our bodies are made to move. Okay. Then we talked about earlier supports. Now, Eris is a Reiki client of mine, very useful to move energy. If anyone's curious about it, reach out to me. I'd love to support you. Massage. These are also ways that moves physical energy within your body. Support yourself with these types of love experiences that move and create flow. Because what happens is when we are ill, whether it's physically ill, have something mentally that is ailing us, there is a stagnation of energy and movement. So if you notice what I'm talking about, I said breathe, meditate. That's bringing the prana, the air flow, move. That's bringing the energy flow to your physical body. Reiki, that's moving energy with the support of another person. Massage, that's moving the flow of energy in your body. You need to have flow in your physical body and in your energetic body. These are first steps of coming into full awareness of yourself, your decisions, where your thoughts are. And that's when you can begin to interrogate those thoughts and questions. Begin to understand, okay, here's some areas where I need support because now it's in my conscious awareness of what I was thinking, that I was saying that to myself. There's a there, and I need somebody to help me uncover what's really going on there. So, all of these kinds of things that can begin to introduce flow into the body, into the mind, into your energy field are always, I would say, to begin.
I love that. So for me, it's getting practices and support that allows for you to get into the flow. It's like when things are flowing and you can start to stimulate positivity, right? That leads to me to greater awareness. Like when you can get rid of all the junk
The
and
debris, honey. We
the
talked about
debris,
that word debris.
get rid of
Remove.
that debris, right? That you can have better awareness. And once you have more awareness, like then you start to have the clarity.
You're like,
And with the clarity, we bring it all back. Just now we can start to make the decisions that we need to make in order for how to move forward with the things that we desire. And I think for me, that's why, I tell folks like I'm trying to be a well-rounded executive. I don't want to just be a boss and I've grind so hard that I've let my body fall apart, or I've grind so hard that I'm single and I'm 65 out here in the streets, like are the things like I want to be well-rounded, right? Or my mental is not together, and in part of that are all the things that we've been talking about. And so we are now coming up on our last like 8 minutes. um, and one quick question, because even as folks think about designing this life and being at a decision point, and where we can sometimes get stuck at these decision points, what's your thoughts about getting it right and having it all?
ooh. Well,
When we want to get it right, can we have it all?
absolutely, absolutely, because that's we're talking about limiting beliefs, right? There is no reason that you cannot create the life that you want. Mic drop, period. Okay, let's just start there. And I'm going to harken back to a comment I made earlier. I can't fully remember the context, but getting it right. I want us to reframe this, what is right, because sometimes we have this vision of what's right and it's very stuck and it's very prescriptive, and it doesn't leave room for flexibility, creativity, and even higher aspirations than we have in our own minds. So getting it right is about recognizing that you're exactly where you need to be right now. What are you doing with where you are right now? Because it is right, because it's meant for you. So that's part of it, because it's a whole reframe. I will add in a little tidbit that might be a little contrary to what people might think. What if you reframed your work life or work situation as your playground for self development? What if? Because a lot of times we see our work life as something I have to do. I show up, and usually I'm performing. I'm putting on a costume, and I'm acting a different way than I actually act. And then I go through that, and you come home exhausted because you've been performing the whole time. You haven't even really been who you are. And you're like, oh my God, I just was in meetings, but why am I so tired? Because you've been performing, and you didn't have time to even really be authentic. Okay. But what if you approached it differently and said, Every encounter, every person, every meeting is for me to evolve. So how would I approach it differently? Maybe I incorporate love. You know, this feeling, this love feeling we invoked. We did our invocation of love at the beginning. What if I did that before my meeting? How would I show up differently? What would change? Because that's going to change your vibrational frequency. And when you show up at a higher vibrational frequency, it spreads. The people around you start to feel it. Do you know that when you step in a room, people feel you and your leadership before you open your mouth? Body language, energy, they feel all of that.
That's
So,
right.
so I'm saying all that to say a reframe is the first part of creating, co-creating and manifesting the life that you want. Because if you are in a low vibrational frequency that is not evolved in love and joy, you're blocking your blessings. The universe doesn't know how to respond to that. They're like, oh, well, she ain't ready. She's still down here. No, let's reframe. I'm going to
Yeah.
approach this situation, this person, this situation, these people in ways where I can evolve. And then you do. And then your circumstances change because your
Yeah.
frequency changed. And I know that sounds a little woo woo and a little out there. It's okay. Do it. Try
Just
it
do
and see
it.
what
I'll say
happens.
trust it. Do it. That's right.
Try it
That's
and see what happens. Because you are co creating with every action, word, thought right here, right now. You're co creating your life.
Yeah, I love that. Goes back to the unlearn. It made me sit here and think about the way that we put so much energy and effort and intent and thought into our jobs and our careers and our professions. What if we flip that paradigm
Mm-hmm.
and literally put that level of studying and showing up and investing and intentionality into our personal development, right? As our whole self. And so, yes, we want to be successful, but what is success? What is it really? And we want to have careers, but do we want careers, or are we really just trying to make sure that we have financial stability in life? So I think there's
Mm-hmm.
many things that we should be having honest conversations with ourselves, because again, that goes back to that purpose. It gives you that clarity. And a lot of times why we probably feel misaligned is because we just haven't reached that level of clarity even within ourselves. And so for me, I'll say, I love when you said, when I see you, you're your authentic self, you show up, and
Mm-hmm.
people are saying, oh, Eris, you're good. And I'm like, you know what? I do have moments where I feel very like I am tired, or I am confused, or I don't want to say broken, but I have my moments. And there are a lot of things that I accomplish and I knock out, but it would still feel as though something was missing, right? Or it would still feel like something was just off. I don't have those kind of feelings per se anymore in like my life and my profession, but it was because I hadn't gone and done the work to understand like what I define or what I really thought was success, or what actually makes me feel good, or the kind of environment that I want to be in. I always say I'm very blessed with the 9 to 5 that I have right now. It's like the most healthy place I've ever. And it's like, who knew that these kind of places exist? Well, they do, when you start to get very clear about where you want to be and how you're going to get there and what you will not settle for. And so, as we close out, and we're going to go over a little bit, tapping into the background that you had as someone in operations and HR and organizations, is there a role that companies and organizations play in supporting their teams and their staff with kind of being able to design and develop, a life that they love? I think it comes back to retention. But I would love to hear from you. It's like folks on here are managers, folks
Yes.
who do HR. What would be your challenge and charge to them on this journey?
I love that was such a good question because one of the missions I am on, and I did not tee this up for you, just so y'all know, she actually, one of my missions is to normalize communities of care in organizations. What if that was normalized? Okay, and so then what would that look like? Because I work with organizations to help them develop wellness philosophies, strategies, implementation. And so where does the role of the organization begin and end? You create the environment where people can be authentic, where their authenticity is then valued, because instead of saying you're not fitting in this box really well, as a manager, I might say, you have this skill set that's not suited for this, but let's explore how it could be suitable for some of these other things. That's care. That's intention. That's seeing the person, not trying to squeeze them into something that they don't fit in. Okay. So, as a manager, you got to do your work, because you cannot show up for the people that you are managing if you haven't done the work. So you may be part of the problem if you haven't done that part. Let's say you have. Then you begin to see those people so much more clearly and can help guide them and direct them in the places that they need to be. I think organizations as a whole need to redefine what culture looks like. And I'm not saying that, although I have come and done sound baths and other meditation workshops, and I do those things, it doesn't have to be that. But what can open up the spaciousness for people who come there for hours every day? A lot of them are unwell, let's be clear. What can you provide for them that makes them feel a little more ease? Maybe it's the flexibility of the hours. Maybe it's because some people, the morning, like, there needs to just be a consciousness shift where we care, especially now. And it begins with each of us. If you're in an organization right now and you see things that are not in a spirit of care, maybe you don't have the decision making power to change that, but you can begin to talk about, what if we do this? Start having a conversation. And I think, with the hardcore facts of retention and the cost it takes to refill a role and all this, the dollars and cents are there, but it's a consciousness shift that has to happen. And the patriarchy and the hierarchy just hasn't gotten there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. Oh my goodness. So we're at time, and I
Yes.
could keep going. Um, Literally what you just shared and all the things that you've shared. How would someone get in touch with you if they wanted to bring you in to help with consciousness shift within organizations, or coaching, or Reiki, or all the amazing things that you do?
Thank you for that. You can find me, and if I had done better, I would have had some way to have it spewed across the screen. But you can find me at Beaded Souls, that's SOULS.com. You can find information about the services I provide. You can reach out to me through the website. You can also just find me on LinkedIn. I'm Faida Fuller on LinkedIn. And I'd love to partner and support you or your organization as we go about this mission of creating communities of care and finding wellness in our authentic selves in our leadership. So that's what I'm here to do.
Oh, thank you, Faida, for such a powerful,
Ooh,
energetic, no pun intended, and grounded conversation. This was exactly what I was hoping we could bring to the community today. So thank you so much. All
thank you for
right.
you.
See y'all on the next Tipsy Tuesday.